After yesterday's video on timing when a baby's HIE brain injury actually happened, the mother reached out to me offline and asked me a really important question. And that question dealt with how does the MRI connect to the fetal heart monitoring strips? That question matters because when you look at them together, they can show when the baby's brain more than likely begin to lose oxygen, and it can help us be able to determine whether the injury happened before labor or during labor itself. The fetal heart monitor gives a minute-by-minute look at how the baby was tolerating labor. Every deceleration and every stretch of minimal variability or absent variability can tell a part of the baby's oxygen story. A few days after birth, doctors will generally perform an MRI in this context, and the MRI shows which areas of the brain were injured and the pattern of the injury. These patterns can give us clues about the type of oxygen deprivation that the baby may have experienced. Some MRIs will show what doctors call an acute profound injury. And what that means is that there was a sudden and severe loss of oxygen to the baby. It often occurs when you have a cord prolapse, a uterine rupture, or some other types of major injury. The deep gray matter, including the basal ganglia and the thalamus, these are areas that are usually going to be impacted by this. Other MRIs can show a partial prolonged injury, and this happens when the oxygen levels are low over a longer period, often during labor. In these types of cases, the injury usually affects the outer watershed areas of the brain, and it can result from repeated late decelerations or a prolonged labor without a timely delivery. And then with some MRIs, you can have what we call a mixed pattern, and that's part of the brain shows gradual stress, and part of the brain shows a sudden severe event. This often will mean that the baby was already struggling, and then they suffered a final and devastating loss of oxygen before or during delivery. Doctors will sometimes call that final event a sentinel event. An MRI alone cannot pinpoint the exact moment of injury. What it can do is it can show patterns and timing windows, not like a minute on a clock. Experts can review the MRI along with the fetal heart monitor, cord gases, the placenta, and all these types of things, how the baby looked at birth. They can use all these things to help put the pieces together to determine whether the injury most likely happened during labor. When the fetal monitor shows repeated late decelerations or a prolonged drop in the heart rate, and the MRI is showing deep gray matter injury, that combination can support more than likely an intrapartum event. Even with a mixed pattern, if the strip is showing a baby that was in distress for hours before birth, experts will often conclude that the final damaging phase happened to this baby during labor. If a baby has a normal head circumference and a normal weight for term gestational age, that can be used to argue that the baby was developing well up to delivery. And a plaintiff lawyer like myself will be able to use these facts to rebut a common defense position, which is to suggest that the baby was already damaged before getting to the hospital. These types of findings, they can support a conclusion that the injury more than likely occurred during labor. And this is why plaintiff lawyers and medical experts will spend so much time reviewing every record early in the case, so we can be able to connect the fetal monitor, the MRI, the cord gases, and the placenta, and all of these types of things to be able to understand timing, because families deserve answers when it comes to these types of situations. Again, I'm Marcus Boston. If you have any other questions about your baby's HIE brain injury at birth or a subsequent CP diagnosis from a medical legal standpoint, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. You can find out more information about me and my profile. If you're watching this video on certain apps, you can send me a DM and we could chat a little bit about your baby story, or you could just wait and watch the picture that follows the end of this video. All right, that's going to be it for today's quick educational video. Have a good day, everybody.